and welcome to episode 7 of my crochet podcast. Here I talk about anything crochet and yarn related, and also a bit of knitting. Now I've started to learn. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Sam and I live in the east of England in Norwich. And if you're a returning subscriber, thanks for coming back. I do appreciate that. So in my last crochet podcast, I announced that I'd hit 500 subscribers, and I have slowly since been growing. So welcome if you are new to the channel, and thank you for subscribing. Even just hitting the like button I think helps. I don't quite know how the algorithm works, but yeah, I really do appreciate any subscribers, any likes, any comments actually. So this is a typical podcast episode which will cover what I've been up to, any finished items and any works in progress, also known as WIPs, any new patterns that I've made, because earlier on in the year, well, I say earlier on in the year, we're only in February. In January, I did make my first pattern, which was a triangle crochet scarf or shawl. It's quite versatile. You can use it either or, but I designed my own pattern and I said I would like to design more crochet patterns. So yeah, I will be covering any new patterns if there are any, and any new purchases and plans, because if you have been a regular viewer of this channel, you'll know that I do like buying a skein of yarn or two. So as well as purchases, I will be covering plans with those purchases if there are any, because we all know that we do see a nice skein of yarn and we just buy it. We don't necessarily have any plans in mind. And then last in the podcast, I cover any upcoming plans and events that are yarn or crochet related, or knitting related really. So with that being said, let's get into the podcast. So what have I been up to? Well, the same as usual really. I've been working, but I have been crafting throughout the week, which I do cover in my weekly crafting vlogs. If you haven't watched them, they are on my YouTube channel, so just click my name and you'll be able to see them under the videos. And then I've been attending my regular weekly craft group, which we hold on a Tuesday at a local pub. And yeah, if that's something that you'd like to attend, do message me on Instagram, SR Designs Crochet, and yeah, I can share some more of the details. So that was a very short segment because unless there's any particular events that I've been to, you know, I won't be talking much in that segment, to be honest. But next is any finished items, and that I do have. So I did cover this in my weekly crafting vlog, and this is the Spring Fling triangle shawl or triangle scarf. As I said, they're quite versatile. Shawls and scarves, you know, especially when they're this sort of shape, you know, you can use them either or. So this is the one that I made up. So it was very quick to make. I made this in just less than a week, I want to say. And I used 3 whole skeins of yarn. As you can see, they're 3 different colours. I'll just talk you through it. This pattern is by the Unravelled Mitten. It's called the Spring Fling Triangle Scarf. And I, as I said, used 3 colours. So this first colour here is in Malabrigo Rios, and that is in the shade Libra. And then the second colour here is hand-dyed yarn by Craft House Magic, and that is in the colourway Where the Wild Roses Grow. And then this one here is again Malabrigo Rios, and it's in the colourway English Rose. So I had all these in my stash, and I went through my stash to choose sort of complementing colours, and I thought these 3 looked really good together. So I thought, you know, why not pick a nice easy pattern, which this really was, and I put them all together in a triangle scarf. So it's worked up quite big, but how I have been wearing it is I have been just popping it up and round, and then you've got these nice long tails that you can just tuck under, and yeah, it just sits like that. It comes down quite long if I just stand up slightly. But yeah, it's designed to wear as a triangle scarf, or you could also wear it as a shawl, because I think when I was making it I did put it around my shoulders and it covers them quite nicely, and I thought, you know, in the summer that would be quite a nice one to wear on my shoulders in like a summer's evening. But for now, because it's still a bit chilly outside, I'm wearing it like this. I really like it. It's really soft, really drapey, because the size hook that I used was a 6.5mm crochet hook. Now the pattern called for a slightly smaller one. However, because I didn't want this to be a thick, tight, chunky sort of fabric, I chose to go up a few sizes with the crochet hook. As I said, it has created a really nice drape, you know, like making it quite floppy. I'm really pleased with that, and it is really nice to wear. These are all merino wool, so obviously it's really soft, and I'm really happy with the colours. And how the pattern is designed is basically a granny cluster where you put three, hang on, let me see if I can show you. So yeah, you can see here there's 3 double crochets into, you know, a chain one space, or chain, is it chain one space? I can't remember now. But anyway, nice easy pattern. If you're a beginner crocheter, I would highly recommend this pattern, or just any granny square, triangle, you know, any granny stitch. It's really easy to work up. And in fact, I did teach my twin sister how to start one of these for herself. I did make a video on that. That was just a little fun video that we put together of me teaching her to crochet. We had a few laughs and it was really fun to make. I don't know how far along she's got, but she did come to one of our craft groups and brought it along with her to, you know, progress a little bit further with. I highly recommend for any beginner to try this one. So this was my only finished item. Because I'm doing my crochet podcast every 2 weeks, there's not going to be a huge amount of finished items to show you. However, whips there are more of. So that's where I come on to next, works in progress. So the first thing I want to show you is in this project bag. It's a project bag that was handmade for me, so it's not something you can buy, so I can't sort of link down below where you can purchase, unfortunately. So this is housing my Sophie shawl. As you can see, I've done a lot of progress on this. So where was I? Okay, so when I last showed you in the podcast, I was up to here where the stitch marker is. I had done that much. I've progressed this much. From the stitch marker to here is how much extra I have done since I last showed you on the podcast. So as you can see, oh, I think it's doubled, you know. I'm really pleased with that. I am nearly at the point where I need to make my decreases. So the Sophie shawl, for anyone who doesn't know, it starts off really thin and then it gradually grows and grows until you get to the middle point, and then you start decreasing. So when you start decreasing, you basically mimic what you've done on the other side. I'm really happy with how that's working up, and because I'm learning how to knit, this is probably my first proper knitting project. As I said, it's working up really quickly, very mindless. I'm also kind of learning how to knit without looking at it, which is coming quite easy to me now. The yarn I'm using, for anyone who hasn't watched any of my other videos, is the James C. Brett Aztec Aran with alpaca. This one I purchased at my local craft shop and it was superb. I spent £3.95. I believe you can get them a lot cheaper online, but as I was at the craft shop, you know, I bought it along with several other balls. Because originally when I bought that yarn, I was going to make a jumper, but then I saw the Sophie shawl pattern and I was like, I'm going to use it in that instead, because the pattern actually calls for Aran weight yarn, which that yarn is. And a little tip that I want to share that I've been doing, I don't know if anyone else does this, I can't knit or crochet and remember what row I've done. So because it kind of works in increments of 6, what I've done is wrote down all the increments basically. So after knitting 6 rows, you then increase and you increase on the same side every time. So that is why I put a stitch marker down here for my increase row, so that I know when I'm on here that I know that row is my increase. So yeah, just a little tip for anyone who needs the tips. But yeah, this was written on the back of my pattern. That is the Sophie shawl, and she also does a scarf version which is a lot smaller. Can I see the point in it? I don't know. I like chunky scarves, although it'd be quite a nice one to wear in, no, not even the summer. But yeah, I like bigger scarves, so that's why I chose the Sophie shawl. Although I will be using it as a scarf, it'll just be a chunkier scarf. So anyway, that was my progress on the Sophie shawl. I have since made use of these needle stoppers because I got to a certain point where they were a bit slippy, you know, slipping off the needles, and I thought I need some needle stoppers. So I already had these because I had them in the Blue Fern Yarns goodie bag from the afternoon tea last year. Pop them on, highly recommend. And the needles that I'm using are Higher Sharps that I got from Craft House Magic. So yeah, go along to her website. She stocks loads of different needles and obviously hand-dyed yarn, which, as I said, is one of the yarns that I used in this Spring Fling triangle scarf. And for anyone who's interested, when I last showed the Sophie shawl, I was on row 189 and I am now on 346. I still haven't got a better stitch counter. Okay, so that was my first work in progress. The next one I'm really, really excited to show you because, as I said before, it's one of my long-standing whips. I think I started it last year. Can't remember when, but I started it last year and I want to show you the progress. This bag's empty because I'm not going to be able to show you this because I have all of the squares attached to my Battenberg blanket. It's huge. So I've added all of the squares that I've made. I want to say there was about 200 odd. I know, crazy. There's 18 rows that I have done. So this is the top, and I was working my way this way to attach the squares. I'm now working my way down to attach this way, because if you see here, there's a gap and I've attached this one. So that's basically all I need to do now, is go down this way and attach them all. Put a stitch marker in and I've got this far. It does take a lot of work. It's surprising, or not a lot of work, just a lot of time. And yeah, I've got up to here and I just need to continue it all the way down. As I said, it is quite long. Width-wise, it is like this. So yeah, I really can't wait to show you the finished item. And actually, I will include a picture here of myself proudly displaying the fact that I've got all of these squares sewn together. Yeah, it's nice to see a project coming together. The end result will be a blanket that I can use in the living room, you know, on the sofa with the boys. I really like how the look of this is coming together. I don't mind that, you know, you can see, or can you? I mean, it doesn't really notice. You can see that it's a definite sort of different texture, you know, like a little raised bump. But because you've got these neutrals in between the coloured ones, it's not like an obvious line around the colour, if that makes sense. But yeah, that is the Battenberg blanket coming together. And as I've previously said, this is in Stylecraft Special DK. And yeah, they have, I want to say, 120 different colours, which is quite a lot. I just chose sort of some pastel colours along with like a darker version of those pastel colours, if you can see. That is getting there, and I don't think I'll have this fully completed in the next podcast episode, but I will continue to work on it, hopefully. But now I'm at this point, there's so many more patterns that I want to do, but I keep telling myself, finish that one project before you start another. That is one of my aims this year. I can't promise anything, but one thing that this channel has taught me is to keep myself accountable. So for instance, if I say, I'm going to complete this by the next crochet podcast, I will have in my head that I need to work on it for the next podcast. But I'm not going to promise that. I'm going to work on it, get progress done. I don't think I'm going to have it finished, because just simply, doing this bit along here, it takes a lot of time. You are going through every single one of these stitches. It's like a slip stitch on this side and that side together. And yeah, it just takes some time. So at least I've got them together. I've got all the squares sewn together. Okay, so I think they were all my whips. I do have another whip, which was technically my first knitting project, and that was like a chunky ribbed scarf. That's been put on hold just because I've been focusing on the Sophie shawl, which in my opinion is a lot nicer to knit on rather than the chunky ribbed scarf. And because it is getting more, I want to say spring is on its way, I'm not necessarily going to need that anytime soon. That will be a project for the winter, next winter coming. So anyway, they were all my whips. So next in my podcast is any new patterns. There is. So I will show you now. Okay, so before I show you, the other day I had some inspiration to design another pattern. Now I think I was going to make a boomerang shawl. However, that then turned into like an asymmetric shawl where it goes small and then gets larger. And then when I got to a certain point in that pattern, I then started to decrease. And then I realised it's kind of creating the sort of shape that the Sophie shawl will have. It's a crochet version. Well, no, it's not a crochet version because it looks so different. But anyway, I will show you. So this, hang on, I don't know how I'm going to show you. It's quite long. This has worked up so quickly. So this is where it started at the tip, and then you increase every other row, and then you just get larger and larger until you get to the middle. So where my face is here is basically where it then decreases. So you can see that coming along. So it's kind of creating a bit of a symmetrical look now at this point. And I love how the yarn is turning out. Look at that. So where the middle is, where my face is where I started a new ball of yarn. And as you can see, the colours look very symmetrical, how they're turning out. It's just making the pattern look absolutely lovely. Ever so thin this side, and then it gets wider into the middle, and where the middle bit here is the widest the shawl or scarf is going to be. And as I said, I'm now up to here. It will just basically mirror this side now until it gets all the way to the tip. This is basically designed as a shawl like this, or as a scarf like this. It's like that. Excuse the stitch marker. I just put it where the middle bit is basically. So yeah, I'm still holding it here because the crochet hook's on there. I don't want to lose my end. Oh, hang on, I'll just make it a little bit longer so I've got a little bit to work with. But yeah, basically, got wrapped in scarves here. It goes round, and I obviously haven't got a tail this end, but I have here. You can either choose to have it long, or you can just continue to wrap it round and tuck it under. But yeah, that's basically how it's looking. It's quite versatile. You can use it as a scarf or as a shawl, but I haven't yet finished it. I'm still decreasing, but As I said, I absolutely love the style of it, and the yarn that I used is really nice. So the yarn I used, I actually purchased with pattern designing in mind, because this mimics or is very approximate to the meterage that you would get in like a skein of indie hand-dyed yarn. So it's approximately 230 meters per 100 grams, and a skein of hand-dyed yarn is like 220 meters per 100 grams if you're getting a DK weight yarn. So yeah, this is DK weight. It's by Stylecraft Cabaret, and it's in the colourway Midnight Hours. And yeah, it's basically creating this like self-striping effect, which is really, really nice. I mean, as you can see in there, it's got all my sort of favourite colours in there. I don't know how well you can see that, but here is like a bit of a teal sort of shade. And then it goes like a dark greenish sort of colour, fades into purple, and then you've got some pinks, and then it fades back out again, basically. I can't wait to get that finished. No one has tested this pattern for me yet, but if you would like to be a pattern tester for this symmetric shawl, I don't know, it's not an asymmetric shawl and it's not a boomerang shawl, but if you would like to be a tester for this shawl or scarf, do let me know. Contact me on Instagram under SR Designs Crochet, or send me an email. I will leave that in the description down below. Absolutely love this, and I think this will be something that I regularly wear, hopefully. The yarn, when I was working up the yarn, the sparkles that you can see in there, it's like a little strand wrapped around the yarn, and I did keep catching it with my crochet hook, which was a little bit annoying when working with. However, when I was working it up, I was feeling it, and it's a little bit scratchy because of that one strand of fibre. I don't think I will notice that too much when it's wrapped around like a scarf. I really do like that, as I keep saying. I think this probably, to get to this point, it's probably taken me a matter of a couple of days. Honestly, it's so simple. The pattern is mostly double crochet stitches, and then here where you got the lacy details, it's just double crochet and a chain one. Hang on, yeah, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, and then you've got the odd row in there along here in the middle of the lacy details of puff stitches. So yeah, very simple but elegant. But yeah, this probably won't take me too much longer to finish. I'm at this point of the decrease, and yeah, I don't think that'll take too long at all. But that is one of my new patterns. I did show myself working on this in my weekly crafting vlog, and I did say that I will most likely do a tutorial on this. So yeah, if that is something that you want to see, don't forget to like and subscribe so you know when I post that sort of content. Again, if you want to be a pattern tester, just let me know, and then I can send the pattern your way, and then you can share the progress of your shawl that you make from this pattern. Yeah, I really do like that yarn, and I have a very similar version in like grey tones. So I will be using that for another pattern. I did say that because of that pattern, the way it works up is it increases on every other row on the same side. And my idea was to make another pattern increasing on every single row on the same side. So it just gets wider more rapidly. So yeah, that is one pattern. And then the other pattern is just going to be slight variation on that, but just a bit wider more quickly. It gets bigger more quickly is what I'm trying to say. So that was one of the patterns that I've been working on. Next is any purchases and plans with those purchases. So no, I have not made any purchases. There is a reason for that. I am holding off until the East Anglian Yarn Festival, which is, I believe, just under 3 weeks away. I think I'm going to go a little bit crazy with my buying, so I wanted to rein it in a bit and just wait until then. So that's why I haven't made any purchases. But instead of showing you any purchases, I want to share plans with future purchases. I did show in my weekly craft and vlog that I had printed out pages of patterns that I want to create. I have since wrote down on these pieces of paper, you won't be able to see that very well, but I have printed out the pictures of the patterns that I want to create, and then I have wrote some details down as to what size that I need to make for me, and then what type of yarn it requires and how many skeins for my size. So I done this as a way of keeping organised and making purchases with plans in mind. And also, as I said, I am not going to be buying yarn for every single one of these patterns at the East Anglian Yarn Festival, because that'll be crazy. That'll be a hell of a lot of yarn. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make all of these in the same year, you know. All of these are knitting patterns, and I'm a beginner knitter, so there's no way I'm going to quickly whip through all these. I have basically printed them out, and I'm going to go through it and choose which one I want to make the most. So from this page, I am probably going to choose a couple of garments, I think. Maybe one jumper, and then I've got a t-shirt on here as well. I have since seen more knitted t-shirts that I will look on Ravelry for and, you know, see what sort of yarn that requires, because this one here is a very basic t-shirt, and I have since seen some quite nice looking t-shirts. I'll have a look at those, see if I want to swap this one out for them, and then obviously get the yarn meterage and all that sort of information. Yeah, some of these are DK, some of these are 4-ply, and in fact one of these is Aran weight yarn. So they all require different amounts of yarn, and I just need to go through them to choose which one I want to purchase yarn for. Not only did I print that page off, I did print another page, well, a few more pages. Anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. But this one here is basically knitting accessories. So when I say accessories, it's like scarves or shawls, that sort of thing. So these are on my list. There are some of these that only require one skein of 4-ply. I have 3 skeins of 4-ply now, so I could potentially choose them skeins for the 1 skein projects of 4-ply, and then at the East Anglian Yarn Festival purchase yarn for maybe some of the other ones that require a couple of skeins of yarn. But I quite like this one here. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's got a bit of a checkerboard look, and it's a knitted cowl. I quite like that, and I might purchase yarn to make this one. And yeah, down here is the Stephen West shawl called Painting Honeycombs. I really want to have a go at that. I know I'm a beginner, but I was speaking to some of my friends and they said that I could probably do that as a beginner. So I'll have a go. I'll choose the yarn for it, maybe. Yeah, looking at this, it doesn't require a huge amount of yarn, even though it works up quite large, which I was quite surprised about, really. But yeah, these are some contenders as well. And then there's another one here. These are some more knitted accessories. And again, I've added some information on how many skeins of yarn they require. And then I have a version for crochet. Now, I'm not so inspired by this page as I was with the knitting ones. Oh, this is a knitted one. I am definitely going to make a knitted beanie, and it will be my first hand knitted beanie, because the other ones that I've made that look similar to this, I've made on a Centro knitting machine, which is basically a machine. You know, you wind it by hand, but it's not handmade, if you get me. Anyway, I want to make this. I know exactly where I'm going to get the yarn and the pom-pom. I discussed that in my weekly crafting vlog. This one here, I think I want to do. I could potentially make that out of things that I have in my stash already. So I might not necessarily buy yarn at the East Anglian Yarn Festival to add to my stash to make for this, because I probably have some in my stash that I can already use. Looking back, I will probably be making quite a few knitting patterns, because I want to make myself a knitted garment, whether that's a sweater or a t-shirt or both. But yeah, I'm really feeling quite inspired by knitting at the moment. And I know this is a crochet podcast. However, I think this might just be turning into a knitting and crochet podcast. I know some of my viewers are knitters as well, which is great. It's good to have more than one craft, right? Yeah, lots of patterns on there. This isn't all of them, if I'm honest. As I said, I have since seen more patterns. I've written them down, not necessarily printed them out like this and wrote details. This is to keep me organised for my purchases, and I highly recommend anyone who's going to a yarn festival to do the same, unless there's no patterns that you want to make. I doubt it. And then that comes to any upcoming plans and events. Well, as I said, I hold my regular weekly craft group, which is on a Tuesday at the Bull Pub in Helston, Norwich, and it's from 7:30 in the evening until late, basically until they close, maybe 11 o'clock. If that's something you want to come to, just let me know. The more the merrier. And then one last thing I want to share is the winner of the 500 subscriber giveaway that I'd mentioned in my last podcast episode, episode 6. So I have recorded a little clip and I will insert that now. Okay, so I have my list of everyone who entered the giveaway, and they are all on here with a little side note as to what colours they like. So I'm going to cut every single one of these out and put them in a bowl because I don't really have a hat to put them in. So yeah, let's do that now. Okay, so there we have it. We have every single one of you guys who entered, and I'm just going to just wrap them up like this. Okay, so here they are. They are all in the bowl. So now, just pick a winner. Michelle's Crafts and Bougeot Corner. Congratulations, you have won a skein of yarn, which I'm now going to choose. So congratulations to Michelle's Crafts and Bougeot Corner. You have been chosen as the winner, and I have gone into my stash to choose a skein of yarn. You did say you liked purple, so that is one of the reasons I wanted you guys to share what your favourite colour is. I have chosen this one out of my stash. This is from Blue Fern Yarns, and that is in the colour Larkspur. So this is in a classic DK base of 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. So yeah, as you can see, it's got all the purple colours. So again, congratulations. Send me a message and then I can get that posted to you. I will leave my email address down below, or you can contact me on Instagram. So that comes to the end of my podcast. So if you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. That really does help my channel out. If you made it this far, why don't you leave a sunshine emoji? Yeah, be interested to know how many of you made it this far. Thank you for watching to the end, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.